Jasper's been a proper pickle this morning. Think he might have a bit of a cold. Soph's got a bit of a cold too. I, however, feel fine. But then I did overload on orange juice the other day. Very busy day today. It's always a good day that starts with a screaming child and a software update. Yeah, I'm just trying to get everything together because we're going to be out of the house later. No doubt that software update was just a bug fix. But if you don't have bug fixes, then the software never gets to that sort of really spot on. Good boy. Oh, I gotta say, I'm loving the weather today. Just need my sunglasses now. And all is right with the world. This is at preschool now. I'm going to go and see somebody about taking a house off grid. Not my house. Either way, there should be loads of solar panels and batteries. Quick stop to grab some supplies. Try and keep the water out of the bottom of my electric skateboard. Okay, so you've got a system that is actually properly off grid. Sort of then.
Sort of, yeah, still connected to the grid, but it's about 85-90% off grid in the summer. Yeah, the reason was an experiment first of all. Started off with a very small panel and an inverter. That's kind of like led the interest initially, and then thought, okay, you know, I've got some spare time to get a hobby going. Started to read a little bit more about solar, off-grid stuff. Read Off the Grid by Nick Rosen, which is a fantastic book. He's gone around the whole country looking at lots of different people in lots of different scenarios.
As I understand it, what sort of makes this quite special, unlike sort of most of the people with Tesla Powerwalls, for the most part they don't actually supply power if there's no grid feed. So when you have a power cut, you're still sitting there in the dark.
Yeah, so that one there is the installed charger point for the electric vehicle. That's a normal consumer unit, and you'll see a lot of these have been flicked off because they've been put onto the solar board here. So you'll see the boiler.
So you can swap what you want between the two?
Yeah, obviously I can track more over, but I'd need a bigger consumer unit, and then that's supplying the boiler, projector, TV, all of those kind of things, all your AV system basically. Upstairs lighting, downstairs lighting, and some marked sockets. Not all of it. I mean, the ones that I haven't taken across are the obvious ones, which would be the cooker.
So everything in here comes from your battery bank and solar panels?
Yeah.
What happens in winter when this doesn't have enough power in the battery bank?
Okay, so the inverter that I've got draws straight from the grid anyway. So if the batteries go down to a particular voltage, which is about 21.5 volts, I've set it at, it will then kick in, draw from the grid, charge the DC batteries back up. For me, it was an experiment to see how much I could get off grid in an on-grid environment. So
the way it works, if I understood correctly, rather than having the solar panels connect into the grid via a grid tie inverter, you've got an inverter charger.
Yeah, that's right.
So when your batteries are completely full, you have no way to benefit from the solar panels.
All the energy I create goes into that battery bank, and pretty much the house runs off of it all the time. So there was, I think, 4 months in the summer where I didn't use anything from the grid apart from if we switched the oven or the induction hob on. Yes, if a power cut goes on, that's the kind of like the added bonus of it, isn't it? I have even charged the car for a few hours off of it as well in the summer.
You've got capacity for about 12 kilowatt hours, did you say?
It's what I can afford right now. Obviously the battery tech the way it is, these are still gel acid batteries. They're all sealed. They've got a life of around 12 years, which is pretty good.
Is that with how deep cycling is that? Because I typically don't like to take lead acid batteries below 50%.
No, indeed. With deep cycles you can go down a little bit further than that, down to maybe 40%. You can actually, with the controllers as well, the charge controllers and the inverter, you can connect up to your laptop, the software that you've got installed, and you can set all the parameters through the laptop software. So once that's done, it's pretty much all automated.
And how many are in there?
So we've got 14.
Well, one of the things I quite like about lead acid batteries is I know it's sort of seen as the old tech, but one of the advantages of that is, as I understand it, it's basically 99% renewable, as in it actually gets renewed. So the lead acid battery industry takes in almost no new raw materials. You know, I think lithium ion batteries will definitely get there in time.
Where they're all wired in terms of the negative and the positive, they all go to what they're called bus bars. Mine are 400 amp bus bars, and you connect them all to the same side, so it balances out the load. A lot of people don't do that. Because of all of that, you're balancing out both your batteries and your inverter, etc. what it's taken out, so it works a lot better, and your batteries last a lot longer. It's about the care of them. That's what most people don't read up enough of, about the desulfation cycles, and enough about the tech to, you know, oh, the battery's now died. Well, it could be revived potentially. So we did all the research on the types of panels, you know, the mono versus poly, crystalline.
And which kind have you got?
I've got monos, mainly because they are slightly better efficiency and dull light, but there's not, to be honest, there's not too much in it these days.
No, the ones you don't want are the amorphous ones.
No. And the polys obviously work really well if you're in the countries where you're getting a lot of sun. In Spain, go for poly over mono.
I think monos, am I right in thinking they're a little bit more temperature sensitive?
They are, yeah, because obviously they tend to be with the, you know, the dark, and they heat up a lot quicker. So the charge controllers, the 260 amp ones, and the interesting learning curves was the panels on the back. It's a lot longer distance to come in, so I've obviously up the voltage on those, but then always double check your charge controller voltage and what it can handle. So they're very good, the controllers that I've got there going into the inverter.
What I love is the idea of, you know, taking what you've done here and having a proper feedback into the grid where necessary, and a smart grid, certainly on the local level, but, you know, preferably on the national level. And then you just imagine streets and whole towns where everybody has got multiple kilowatt hours of stored power, and the end result is the power stations could be turned off for weeks on end in summertime and nothing would change. Totally 100% carbon emission free. And the great thing about having it in people's homes is there are lots of homes, so you spread that cost throughout the population, and they also get to benefit from that investment, which is why I think it's a goer. My dream is for the government to just turn around and say to the building industry, if you're building a house with a certain number of bedrooms, it has to have a certain amount of kilowatt hours of storage and a certain number of kilowatt hours of production capacity. The great thing about it is it doesn't actually cost the house purchase or anything. You know, yes, they take a slightly bigger mortgage, so they have a slightly bigger mortgage payment, but then they pay slightly less, or quite a lot less, in energy bills. I mean, one of the great things about my car is that, okay, I've got the car instead of a smaller mortgage, but the amount of extra interest and repayment that I would have to make on a mortgage is less than the fuel it saves me every month. So it's more financially efficient for me to have the car and a bigger mortgage than it is to have a small mortgage and a petrol or diesel car.
Exactly, yeah, which is my other car actually is a Prius, but it's retrofitted with LPG.
Oh right,
which not many people think of doing. And Toyota says, what have you done? I've got Toyota. You can't put LGV on it, you can, and it runs very well, and you get about equivalent of about 120 miles a gallon.
Well, the problem with government is they don't think big. They don't seem to think big.
Having this signed off by the NIC is an interesting thing, because it can't be at the moment because of all the sensitive instruments that they normally use. It doesn't work because it doesn't send the base load is the inverter, and all the inverters are slightly different. So that it's sensing different voltages. So that's not only residential, that's commercially as well. So the whole industry, even commercially, is behind the times, because my electrician is well into all of this kind of stuff, and has been
which
for a
helps.
while.
So what you're saying is there's no way to have an off-grid system that feeds back into the...
There is,
but
the instrumentation to get it signed off doesn't currently. It's not has the parameters down to the base load of the grid, so it throws up errors basically.
I was hoping to waterproof the underside of my electric skateboard.
All right.
Using that.
Does it say what it's for?
It doesn't say what it's for. What it says is liquid repelling treatment prevents water, mud and ice from sticking to multiple surfaces. What I liked about it was the fact that it said metal, concrete, wood and most plastics. Because obviously I've got wood and most plastics. Hopefully most plastics on the underside of the skateboard.
It looks like the stuff.
I just want to keep, I mean, I'm not planning on going swimming with it or anything. No. I just want to try and keep out, you know,
the main underneath.
Yeah, you know, if I go through some puddles, I don't want the skateboard to go, oh yeah, now I'm broken.
From my experience, if you sort of silicone it up first and then spray it on.
Anyway, I better get cracking.
Yeah, no, good
Thank you very much
good
for
to
your
see
time.
you. We'll stay in touch.
Well, that was great fun. Need to get all the extra juice into the car that I can, because we're going off to the grandparents' house again for the evening after we've picked up Jasper. Wow, it's really windy now. I would love to have some off-grid capacity for this house. Unfortunately, I just don't really have the budget for it. It would also be nice if it was a bit more of a DIY thing. That was one of the things that I was really interested in about Malcolm's setup, is the fact that he actually did quite a bit of it himself. I'm just gonna have a quick run if I can, because I'm bad and smelly. Yeah. Well, somehow we managed to leave on time. Sophie's just gone to go get Jasper, and then we're going off up to the grandparents. It's all a bit of a rush because Soph's going to a meeting en route. Well, we made it. Soph made it to her meeting. I'm just going to sort of relax and have an evening off. Tomorrow is going to be an entire day of driving, which is kind of the whole point of this, is we're going back up to Manchester this time. Oh my word. But we are saving a fortune because trains are ridiculously expensive and electric cars are ridiculously cheap. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog post and found it interesting. If you have, remember to like it and share it and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you tomorrow for the next instalment of my daily vlog. Bye.
It's just the nuts for sealing stuff, so it's.
I mean, I was going to just put.
Do you need to get? Oh, that's the charging point to it.
Yeah, so these have got rubber seals on them, and it's not going to go. It's not going to get submerged, so I'm not worried about water getting into those.
Yeah.
You know, we're just talking about the odd splash here or there. I was thinking I'd silicone around there where it goes into the battery box.
Oh yeah.